Welcome into the PFF NFL Daily. Today discussing the All-Pro team 4 weeks into our 17-game schedule. That's right, 23.5% of the way through the year. That's the time you always do your All-Pro team, your quarter poll, or whatever you want to look at here. Anyway, Sam, you wrote it. It's over on PFF.com, and more importantly, on the PFF app. That's where I would read it. Go download the PFF app and check it out. Check out Sam, the All-Pro team. Share it out with your friends. Say, hey, look at this thing that Sam wrote. It's over here on the PFF app. So, all right, let's get into it. Any caveats here? 4 weeks in, small sample sizes. How do you want to start this?
The All-Pro team after a first quarter-ish. So it isn't just the top graded players at every position, particularly with such a small sample size. I felt it was important to at least play all 4 games. I don't think anybody's on the team that's only played 3 out of the 4. And also there's weighting attached to, role, the responsibilities, the particular individual jobs that each players have, but also how consistent was your performance? If you had 4 good games, I think that's probably worth more than a player that had 3 out of 4 good games and 1 rough one, even if the grade for the guy with 3 out of 4 good games ends up slightly higher than the guy with 4 good games. So things like that are factored in.
Well, I like it. That's good. Add some context to it. And as I looked up and down the team, there, as always, some familiar names and then some surprises. So let's start at quarterback, where it's Jalen Hurts, first team of the Philadelphia Eagles, Geno Smith of the Seattle Seahawks, the second team. Man, never would have guessed this at the beginning of the season, but Hurts and Geno both playing extremely well. And maybe more notable that some of the other names that people might have expected just didn't make it yet 4 games into the season.
Yeah, and look, it's close at the top. All those guys that we would talk about as being in this argument for All-Pro, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Tua's right up there as well. Another shock after last season. But these guys are all separated only by a couple of grading points. Obviously, their production is kind of off the charts as well. But Jalen Hurts right now is averaging 9.1 yards per attempt. He's also got another couple of hundred rushing yards in there as well. He's playing the best football of his career. Like, the addition of A.J. Brown to that offense has had an incredible effect on everybody, but most notably Jalen Hurts. So you can make an argument for Josh Allen, but Allen has 1 not great game. You can make an argument for Mahomes. Mahomes got 1 not great game. I think that's kind of the story and the thing that separated Jalen Hurts. The worst game was better than anybody else's.
Yeah, and a lot of what the Philadelphia Eagles have done is dominate early. There's a few games where they're up big and kind of settled in a little bit in the second half. Last week was a bit of the opposite. They came from behind against the Jaguars, but Jalen Hurts, well-deserved. Geno Smith, well-deserved as well. He's not missing throws. The interesting thing about Geno, it's not like we're just out of the blue putting Geno Smith up there. The traditional stats, he's got the highest completion percentage through 4 games in NFL history. He's number 5 in passer rating. He's up there in a lot of your traditional numbers, EPA, whatever you want to pull out there, not just PFF grade.
Yeah, and he's only a point or so behind the leader in passer rating. The completion rate thing is interesting because a lot of the times completion rate can lie, right? It's dependent on receivers catching the ball for a start. It's dependent on, there's a bunch of other plays that sort of aren't really true measures of accuracy, but things like throwaways and when you're hit as you threw, that kind of thing. Geno Smith's adjusted completion rate is only 4 percentage points higher than his actual completion rate. Like, he's only had 1 drop in there. So, like, he's not being, he's not dramatically different in terms of when you factor in all the other things. He really is playing with that level of accuracy so far this season.
I think when you look at the receiver list here, Sam, a lot of the big names that we would expect, your Cooper Kupps with, Stephon Diggs, a second team. But A.J. Brown is up there. We got Tyreek Hill up there in the flex position. But after I spent all offseason saying, I got to see how Tyreek Hill and A.J. Brown and Devontae Adams are going to affect their respective offenses, A.J. Brown and Tyreek Hill in particular have their offenses cooking, and they're a part of the reason why Jalen Hurts and Tua Tagovailoa are grading so well. It's tough to decouple that. That is a huge reason why those offenses are doing extremely well, those receivers.
I think you can visibly see the effect of both those guys on the field. A.J. Brown is making everything in that Eagles offense better, in addition to what he's bringing to the table, just in terms of his physicality, his ability to make plays. Same thing with Tyreek Hill. Like, they don't make that Baltimore comeback if Tyreek Hill isn't on the field. His presence has those impact plays and changes defenses every time he's out there. So those two guys have had an incredible effect in their offense and are worth their production plus that sort of gravity that they bring to the table.
I want to get to some of the defensive players and the offensive line, but first, No House Advantage is changing the game by offering the most dynamic fantasy sports platform available today. Play in pick'em contests versus other people for the shot at winning $250,000 plus in cash. Download the app, choose a contest, select your player props, earn points for correct picks, and climb the leaderboard for your shot to win big money every day. You can also test your skills versus the house and 20 times your entry if you hit all your picks. Bet on up to 5 player prop over-unders or individual player matchups across every major sports league, including NFL, NBA, MLB, PGA, MMA, and NASCAR. Sign up now with promo code PFF Daily at nohouseadvantage.com or download the app on the app stores to get a first deposit match up to $25. Make sure to check out No House Advantage today. Experience daily fantasy sports redefined, because it's not just how you play, but also where you play. All right, Sam, on the offensive line, 2 Chiefs. You got Joe Thuney and Creed Humphrey in there, first team. But Andrew Thomas coming in at left tackle. I love how we've always set the trend. Let's define left tackle and right tackle. Andrew Thomas of the New York Giants, year 3, absolute monster breakout. He's been the best left tackle in football right now. Huge, huge development curve that we've seen from him so far in the league.
Yeah, he has. And that's been impressive for a few reasons. One, given how badly he started his NFL career, after, particularly compared to the rest of that tackle class, a few weeks in, half a season in to their rookie years, people were hammering the Giants for selecting the wrong tackle. You could have had any of these other guys that are doing well, and you chose Andrew Thomas, and he looks terrible. But his mechanics, his technique was being reworked in year 1. Year 2, he was better. Year 3, he's been playing like the best tackle in the NFL. And when you look at what's around him, that's even more impressive. The rest of that Giants line is an absolute train wreck. His quarterback is a, let's say, not tackle-friendly quarterback, a guy that's not exactly making his life easier back there. So for him to take that kind of leap and that development arc in the first place is impressive. But to be doing it this year when the situation around him is as bad as it's ever been is particularly impressive.
On the defensive side of the ball, right now, it's only 4 games, but Aaron Donald not first team on the interior defensive line. You get Chris Jones of the Kansas City Chiefs, Jeffrey Simmons of the Tennessee Titans. I'm sure Donald will have a couple of those monster games that'll get him right back in the mix, but Simmons in particular is one of those guys who would always flash the ability to dominate a game. You saw him last year against the Rams on Sunday Night Football, where he just felt unblockable. This year, though, the consistency is there for the first time ever, I think, for Simmons.
Yeah, remember, Jeffrey Simmons' debut was a dominant performance. Like, he showed up after the injury that the Tennessee had taken him in the first round, despite the injury. He was going to miss time. First game back, he looked like a superstar. And then it disappeared for a bit. And he's been that guy that could always show up for a game where he looks like Chris Jones or Aaron Donald. But you're right. This is the season where it's happening every week. And okay, we're only 4 games into the season. Who knows if he can sustain it for the rest of the time? But this player has always been there for Jeffrey Simmons. He's just not been able to do it week after week after week. But if that's the difference this season, then he's right up there with guys like Chris Jones and Aaron Donald.
We're not going to go through every player, but a couple other to highlight. Nick Bosa and Micah Parsons, both first-team edges. We've seen both of those guys absolutely take over games. Nick Bosa just did it on Monday Night Football against the Los Angeles Rams. Micah Parsons, first 3 weeks, essentially took over, slowed down last week. But you're going to start seeing more attention for Parsons in particular now that the league is catching on to, like, hey, this is where he's going to be. He's lined up at edge defender every single week. Anything else that stood out to you as far as on the defense or in the back seven?
I think the linebackers are just a fascinating duo. You've got TJ Edwards, a guy whose story is just phenomenal, from undrafted rookie to working his way through special teams preseason. He's just graded well every step of his career, including in college for PFF, and is finally getting the chance to show it for the Eagles with that improved defense this year. And Matt Milano has just been the best linebacker in the NFL this season for the Bills. Like, a perfect fit for that defense. They've got the best pass rush in the NFL. The secondary is very good. And then Milano is just a natural in coverage and is just very good at being in the right place at the right time to tie it all together in the middle.
You got a familiar name at corner like Jalen Ramsey. The Rams just saw him break up 3 passes a couple weeks ago in one game, and he's been great. But the name to watch there, right on his heels, Patrick Surtain from the Denver Broncos, just went head-to-head with Devontae Adams and held his own last week. And a guy that we've highlighted a few times on both of our shows, Talanoa Hufanga, the safety for the 49ers, pick 6 on Monday Night Football. Looks a little bit like Troy Polamalu and has elements of his game. He's flying around, he's reading plays, and man, he is the breakout player in the NFL so far this season.
Yeah, he looks absolutely fantastic. He's playing the same kind of football as some of those other do-it-all safeties that are much more household names, notably the player number 3 now for the Los Angeles Chargers, who makes second team, right? No, yeah, second team.
Yep.
Second team, the player.
Minka Fitzpatrick also making a ton of plays for the Steelers, first team. So go check it out. There's even special teamers on the list, but you got to go to the app, PFF app. Check it out. All Pro, 4 games into the season. It's the PFF NFL Daily.